I still remember the day she walked out, her heels clicking against the marble floor of our apartment, leaving a silence that felt louder than any argument we'd ever had. "Mark," she said, tossing a folder of papers onto the counter. "I can't stay. You can't afford a woman like me." The words had hit me harder than any betrayal could. Not because of the money, it wasn't that, but because of the arrogance, the complete disregard for everything we had built together. 10 years, countless sacrifices, endless nights, and it all boiled down to an accusation I never thought she could make. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I watched her walk away, the apartment echoing with emptiness. In that moment, I realized the person I loved didn't exist anymore. If she ever had. The next year was quiet, almost painfully so. I focused on work, building routines, finding solace in the small victories life offered me. My friends told me I was better off, that her ego-driven decisions were proof she never truly cared. And deep down I agreed. Then, one chilly November afternoon, I saw her standing at the cafe where I usually went to escape the monotony of life. Her hair was perfectly styled, her smile rehearsed, and there was a vulnerability in her eyes that hadn't been there before. She approached cautiously, almost afraid, like she was stepping onto a minefield. "Mark," she said softly, her voice catching in a way that made my chest tighten. I made a mistake. I didn't respond immediately. I just studied her, letting her fidget, letting her try to read my expression. The woman who had walked away with such certainty was now hesitating, uncertain, and for the first time, I saw her human, flawed, scared. I realized," she continued, "that leaving you was the worst decision I've ever made. Can we talk?" I kept my gaze steady, calm. No rush, no visible emotion, though inside a storm was brewing. This wasn't about money anymore. This wasn't about pride. This was about trust, and she had burned it down when she left. Before I could say anything, a part of me, the part that had learned patience, self-respect, and the art of watching, kicked in. I wanted to hear her out, to see the depth of her regret, but I also knew better than to let her words alone dictate my next move. Her eyes searched mine, pleading for a reaction, but all I did was nod slightly and gesture toward a bench across the street. We walked in silence, the tension between us thick enough to taste. And that's when she began to tell the story I had anticipated for months, the story of why she returned. She sat down across from me, her hands fidgeting with the strap of her bag, eyes darting to the ground before finally meeting mine. "Mark," she began, voice trembling slightly, I was wrong. I thought I needed more than what we had. I thought I needed a lifestyle, excitement, someone who could give me everything I thought I deserved. But no one made me feel the way you do. I've tried to move on, but it's impossible." I listened quietly, my expression neutral, but inside I was torn between disbelief and the flicker of old affection. A year ago, she had left without hesitation, dismissing everything we had shared as if it were insignificant. And now she was asking for forgiveness, asking me to let her back into my life. "Do you understand?" I asked carefully. "That it's not just about money? That leaving wasn't just walking away from a home, but from trust, from love, from me?" She nodded, a tear escaping down her cheek. "I do. Every day," she whispered. "And it's unbearable not having you. I thought I could have it all without you, but I was wrong. Please, I need you back." The weight of her words settled over me, heavy but not suffocating. I remembered the nights I spent thinking about her, the longing, the emptiness. And now here she was admitting she had made a mistake. The contrast between her arrogance a year ago and her vulnerability now was striking, almost surreal. Just as I was processing her plea, she added something that made my stomach twist. "And I wasn't alone. I realized some of the people I thought were my friends weren't, and I've changed. I understand now what really matters." I leaned back, keeping my calm, my voice measured. "You've returned, asking me to forgive and forget. But do you truly understand the consequences of walking away in the first place?" Her gaze fell again, ashamed yet desperate. "I understand," she murmured. "And I'm ready to make it right. I'll do whatever it takes. I can't lose you again." For the first time I saw not just regret but sincerity. But sincerity alone didn't erase the memory of a year spent in rejection. A year of pride, of loneliness, of rebuilding. I could feel the tension of choice pressing against my chest. This was no longer about love. It was about respect, boundaries, and seeing if her actions matched her words. As she continued to plead, I realized the final test wasn't mine to impose. It was whether her change could truly sustain. And that's when her friend, a quiet observer all along, spoke up in a voice that cut through the tension, shifting the stakes even higher. Before I could respond, her friend, Rachel, stepped forward from where she had been quietly standing to the side. She had watched everything unfold, her expression unreadable at first, but now a mixture of firmness and subtle amusement crossed her face. "Mark," Rachel said, her voice calm but insistent, "I've seen how you've been treated. I've seen her walk away without a second thought. And now she comes back, expecting everything to be as if nothing happened." Emily flinched slightly at Rachel's words, and for a moment, I could see the hesitation ripple through her. Rachel's presence shifted the dynamic entirely. Suddenly, it wasn't just about Emily asking for forgiveness. It was about accountability, about proving that a year of lessons had been learned. I know it was wrong," Emily stammered. "I've changed. I swear I've changed." Rachel's gaze softened slightly, but her tone remained firm. "Saying it isn't enough. Actions matter. You walked away once and now you're begging to come back. If you truly mean this, Mark, then she has to show me, and herself, that she's serious. No more excuses, no more arrogance. She has to prove it." I watched them exchange this tension-filled dialogue, the air thick with unspoken emotions. My own heart was racing, not with anger, not with longing, but with a strange mixture of curiosity and guarded hope. Could she really mean it this time? Could she really return not just with words but with intent? Emily looked at Rachel, nodded quickly, and turned back to me. Her eyes, wide and earnest, pleaded for another chance. "I'll do whatever it takes, Mark. I won't make the same mistake again. Please let me show you." I let out a slow breath, feeling the weight of the past year in my chest. I had rebuilt myself, strengthened boundaries, and learned that love without respect and understanding was fragile. But watching her now, I realized that her return carried a new vulnerability, one I hadn't seen before. "All right," I said finally, my voice steady, measured. "This is your chance. But understand this, trust isn't given lightly. It has to be earned. Every day, every action. Nothing less will do." A tear rolled down her cheek, relief and gratitude mingling in her expression. Rachel nodded approvingly, a faint smile breaking her usually composed demeanor. The tension in the cafe seemed to dissolve slightly, replaced with cautious hope. For the first time in a long time, I felt the possibility of closure, and perhaps a new beginning. Emily had returned, not just with words, but with the weight of her acknowledgement and the willingness to prove herself. And as we walked out together, the past no longer held the power it once did. This time the future would be defined not by fear or pride, but by choice, by effort, and by mutual understanding.